Hello, good evening, and welcome to St. Peter's Hove, yet another talk on St. Mark's Gospel as we go step by step through the Gospel. And we're on chapter 14, and it's verses 51 and 52, which are two very extraordinary verses. Let me just read them to you. So we're in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus is arrested, and they all deserted him and ran away. Well, we heard that last time. A young man followed him with nothing on but a linen cloth. They caught hold of him, but he left the cloth in their hands and ran away naked. Who is this young man? And, well, the answer is usually given, and it's in all the commentaries. The young man is St. Mark himself. And he would have been a youngish man, 17 years old, let's say 16 to 18. He'd been sent to bed. He was not part of the Last Supper, but his mother's house was possibly where the Last Supper was held. He spied on the disciples and our Blessed Lord holding the Last Supper. He witnessed what they were doing, and then he followed them out to the Garden of Gethsemane. He was hiding in the bushes somewhere, and he saw what was happening. They grabbed hold of him. He was wrapped only in a sheet because he'd been in bed, you see, and he'd just picked up whatever he had. He left a sheet in their hands and he ran away naked. That seems to be a likely explanation. In fact, I think it's usually accepted that this is St. Mark, John Mark. This is who it is. The other thing, of course, is people have taken a theological explanation and say the running away naked is a sign of shame and defeat and so on. And there are one or two bits in the Old Testament which talk about people being left naked on that day and so on. Jews never went around naked, and going around naked was considered very, very wrong. And so, in other words, it's a symbol of the collapse of the apostolic group as they all rush off. The other thing, of course, is the cloth. We don't actually hear much about cloth in the New Testament as far as I can see. If you think, there is, of course, the seamless robe of our Lord, but we don't have any details about what people are wearing in the Old Testament, do we? In the New Testament, sorry, in St. Mark's Gospel. So this cloth, is this cloth significant? Well, funnily enough, we're going to have another cloth coming up shortly. And if you might remember, that is the cloth that was neatly folded by itself and which is left in Jesus' tomb after Jesus has risen from the dead. So the cloth will come back again. Also, the young man will come back again. And we'll get to that because at the resurrection, Jesus' resurrection is announced by a young man wearing white. So in other words, that this young man who's run away will get his sheet back and be wearing his white tunic or whatever it is to announce the resurrection. And the same word is used of both of them, neaniskos, which is a Greek word which means a young man, which is a very rarely used word in the Bible, believe it or not. I owe that point to my old friend A.N. Wilson, who's written extensively about the Holy Scriptures, and who also makes this excellent point that the announcer of the resurrection in St. Mark's Gospel is St. Mark himself, dressed in white, getting his clothes back. So it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Then, of course, we have the other thing, that each word in the Gospel has got its own weight. A young man followed him. Well, does that mean a young man literally went after him? In other words, when Jesus left the room of the Last Supper and walked towards the Garden of Gethsemane, this young man followed behind. Yes, it does mean that. But it also means that the young man was a follower of Jesus, was an adherent of Jesus, was somebody who believed in Jesus. And this young man, like the rest of the disciples, ran away. They caught hold of him. They thought, well, they've all run away, but we'll grab this one. This one is a youth, but we'll grab him because he's a little bit uncertain. He wasn't so quick at running away, unlike the apostles. They caught hold of him, but he left the cloth in their hands and ran away naked. Now, of course, not a good outcome for the young St. Mark, running naked through the streets of Jerusalem in the dead of night, having just escaped from the temple police, men armed with clubs and swords who've come to take away the master. It's a shameful episode, I think we can say. It is a sign that he is a very bad disciple. Well, we've all been called to follow our Lord. We're all his followers, and we've all been bad disciples. And like St. Mark, we can turn again and make a fist of it and do better in future. All the very best. Good night. We'll carry on tomorrow.